started. Welcome to tonight's forum for the State House District 112 seat, co-sponsored by the Covington News and Newton Conservative Liberty Alliance. My name is Brian Fazio, editor of the Covington News. I'll be asking the questions tonight, kind of moderating, making sure everything stays on track and on time. We're going to feature Dave Belton, Aaron Brooks, Esther Fleming, third candidate, had a prior arrangement, so that's why he's not here this evening. But we're going to hear from the two candidates who are here, so let's jump right in. We're going to give each candidate 2 minutes to introduce themselves. So Dave, start with you.
Well, thank you, Brian, and thank you, Gabe, from the Covington News. I want to thank Peachtree Academy, Headmistress Wendy Hughes, for having us at this wonderful facility. Also want to thank all the people who came out tonight. A lot of people came from Morgan County and also Newton County, and I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out to listen to us old people talk about politics. I also want to thank Aaron Brooks. I want to compliment him on creating the Newton Conservative Liberty Alliance. I think it took a great deal of courage and leadership to do that. And I commend him for his cadre of very loyal volunteers, and I appreciate the friendship we've developed. We've actually broken bread like 7 different times, and consider him a very good friend. So my name is Dave Belton. I'm a Reagan Republican, Christian conservative, 23-year military veteran. I'm the son of a poor Texas farm boy who, with the power of education, broke the bonds of his poverty, went to the Naval Academy, and became a career submarine officer. He then went on to become an internationally renowned expert at NATO during the Cold War. I followed my daddy's footsteps as a Cold War warrior. I became a naval aviator during Reagan's 600-ship Navy. I flew in 5 different conflicts during my 23-year military career, both in Navy, helicopters, and the Air Force with the C-17 Globemaster. I retired from the military just like my daddy, and I became an international pilot for the major airline that's located in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been married 26 years to the same woman, my high school sweetheart. We have 3 children, 2 at the University of Georgia, 1 just graduated, and I also have a 9-year-old, same wife. I don't know what causes that. If you know what causes that, please tell me. My oldest child is a salutatorian of her high school class. She graduated the highest honors from the Honors Department of the University of Georgia and is now working at the Capitol. My second bulldog is a junior at UGA with a Hope Scholarship, and she's studying to become a teacher. She volunteers her time to help poor children in Athens. I'm not from around here. I'm born in the Philippine Islands during the Vietnam War. Because of my daddy's service and my service with the military, I've actually moved 15 different times. I've lived in 4 different countries. And as an airline pilot, you know that I can live literally anywhere. Well, I picked here. I picked Middle Georgia to raise my children. This economy has been horrible, hurting each of your lives, stealing opportunities from your children, robbing the value from your homes. But I'm optimistic about our future. Prosperity can be restored. The way we do that is with economic growth fueled by quality jobs, by learned technical education, brought together in a business-friendly environment. That's why I'm running this race. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dave. I'll hear from Aaron.
I also, too, want to thank Peachtree Academy for opening up their facility, and thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you, Dave, for being here as well. I had the honor and privilege and blessed to have 2 wonderful parents that moved me all over God's green earth while my father served our great country. I've been married to my wife, Michelle, for 16 years. I have 2 children that I absolutely adore. I'm a graduate of Georgia Perimeter College, and currently I'm finishing my undergraduate degree in business economics at Georgia State University. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Navy, and you may not believe it by looking at me, but I've actually run in 7 half marathons. My platform's pretty simple. I want more freedom. I want more freedom for me, more freedom for you, and more freedom for our children. There are 3 freedoms that I would love to see expanded in Georgia. Those are individual economic freedom, educational freedom, and freedom for businesses. Individual economic freedom results when we can eliminate the income tax in the state of Georgia and go to a fair tax. Educational freedom occurs when we expand school choice and allow parents to make the decision on where and how their children are educated. Finally, freedom in business. I want to unleash Georgia's economy by expanding free enterprise. Thank you.
All right, now that we've heard from each candidate, let's get into the debate, shall we? Each candidate is going to get the chance to speak 3 times. We'll alternate back and forth. We'll keep it to 2 minutes so we can keep moving in a good pace. The first topic for the night is going to be education in Georgia and education reform. Dave, you get started.
Well, I am a school board member, and we are very proud in Morgan County of our schools. We are 13th best graduation rate in the entire state last year, and I support public education. I think education gets a really bum rap, actually. 21% of Georgia's AP seniors graduated, passed their AP test last year, double what it was a year ago, highest in the entire national average of 20%. Georgia now ranks 17th in the nation in AP scholars. African American Georgians are ranked 3rd. Progress is being made. We're the 17th best in progress. Now, most of you people don't think we have good schools in Georgia because of the SAT. But the SAT is a very poor way of looking at scores because 30 states don't really take the SAT. Believe it or not, the participation rate of the SAT for 30 states is around 9%. Our participation rate in Georgia is around 80%. If you compare, so basically we're comparing our average student to their cream of the crop. When I went to school in Oklahoma, no one took the SAT. If you compare us with like the ACT, which is another college entrance exam, we actually tie the nation. And we're actually doing very, very well, 17th in the nation AP test. You know as well as I do, there are very few jobs for our graduating seniors. I want our children to raise their children here in Georgia. The only way they can do that is with quality jobs that pay a living wage. The only way they can do that is with quality education. So good schools means good business. With the advent of this high-tech biomed corridor that's coming here along I-20, that can be more true. I really think, you know, we could talk about different education, the school choice and all this kind of stuff, but 96% of the kids who go in Georgia or go to public schools, and so that's what I am focused on, is good public schools in Georgia.
We're in desperate need of educational reform in Georgia. We spend more per student than anyone in the Southeast, and yet we still have the lowest graduation rate. I am in support of public, private, and homeschools. It's a pro-family, pro-student, and pro-teacher approach when we accept school choice. Everywhere that it's been tried, we've seen vast improvements. Indiana has a great school choice program, and I would like to see Georgia move forward with something very similar. My problem is that I don't really like standards, minimum standards. I think that minimum standards result in common mediocrity. It's time that we stand up and say no to a federal government. We say no to DC, and we have community standards where communities are in control of their education.
Okay, we'll go back to Dave.
All right, well, as a school board member, I consider myself a member of schools for not just public, but also private and homeschools. There should not be antagonism between private, public, and homeschools. And I know a lot of people do feel that there is. To me, competition is healthy, and I would support school choice within public schools especially, and in limited measures, I would support vouchers in limited ways to promote school choice for parents. But let's be clear. My main focus is public education. Again, 96% of Georgians are educated in public schools. And standards in public schools are better, they're higher than they are in private schools. Most private schools don't have any standards at all. You have to have standards. If you don't have standards, you can't, if you don't measure it, it doesn't get done. So you have to have standards in order to measure things. More to the point, you pay for these schools. If they're not meeting your expectations, take them back. That's what I did when I saw a problem. Everyone thinks I'm the school board member, and I am. But before I was a school board member, I was a school board activist. We had a problem in one of our schools. I got a group of folks together. We marched on the top of the Board of Education. They were furious with us. And guess what? They changed their ways. They called us a lot of names. And then a year later, I was on the school board. So to me, if you don't like your schools, then you should go back and take them over. You should make your concerns made and become the activist so that you get the quality education that you deserve.
I fully support public schools. I was publicly educated. I think it's imperative that we have good public schools. I think that the way that we get good public schools is by competition between public, private, and homeschool. I believe that education reform should be a bottom-up approach, not a top-down. I think that if we can incentivize community involvement in our education by giving parents the freedom to choose how and where their children are educated, that we automatically get education reform that we've been screaming about for years. Nobody's happy with the education system. We hear it all the time. It's time to let the market work and bring school choice to Georgia and raise our education standards up from the bottom up.
Thank you. Again, I would say we're not at the bottom, where Georgia is actually one of the best states in the South. We have the best participation rate in the SAT in the entire South. And like I said, our ACT scores are actually tied in the nation. To me, it's a time to buy into our schools. In Morgan County, we as parents need to seize the opportunity to prepare our children for the future that's coming. And the future is coming, it's going to be public education. That means participating in our schools. If your parents don't participate in schools, then your children are not going to care about the schools. The way we do it in Morgan County, again, the 13th best graduation rate in the entire state last year, is parents participate. When parents care, then the kids care, and then everyone benefits. We are very proud of our public education. This is amazing. Last 2 years, we had 83% of the kids who applied to get to the University of Georgia got in. 80% of the kids who applied to go to Georgia Tech got in. We are doing marvelous work with our public education. And I'll say this too, it's never been harder to be a teacher than right now. The standards are put upon them, the accountability is put upon them right now is higher than it's ever been before. Let me ask you this, what was the graduation rate back in the 1950s? Anybody know? It was 50%. What was the graduation rate back in the 20s? It's 20%. What's the graduation rate now? Last year, Eastside High had an 87% graduation rate. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's very, very good. Morgan County had 83%. Eastside actually edged out Morgan County by 4%. Newton County had an 83% graduation rate. Things are good, and if you as a community would buy into your schools, you'd find that the kids would care and things would be better.
My concern is for teachers. I want teachers to be able to teach. I think they get bogged down teaching to the test. When we teach to a test, we fail our children. That's not what learning's about. I understand that we need to have some sort of comparison, but we can see that once children leave school. Once they leave school and how they perform in college, how they perform in the workforce, what they do. What I would like to see, my plan is to take a portion of the state property tax, the state portion of the property tax, and return it to parents that choose not to take advantage of the resource of public schools. I don't believe that we should pay for public schools, but I do believe that we should give parents relief if they choose not to take advantage of that resource. My plan would be to give a tax credit. Vouchers are a blank check. Tax credits are a better way of making sure that our tax dollars aren't being wasted on trivial education standards.
All right, that was a great opening topic. Thank both of you. We'll return to another topic in a minute. I have a couple questions first. We'll start with you this time, Aaron. My first question here is, since District 112 covers much of Newton County and all of Morgan County, what do you see as one or two of the biggest challenges facing the counties And what do you see as the one or two greatest opportunities for these counties?
Economically or education?
Just the greatest challenges, I mean, one or two.
I do believe that we face some challenges going forward, but I believe in the American spirit. And I believe in Georgia. I think that we can overcome all of these things. Economically, quite frankly, we've got to attract more high-tech business. We've got a talented labor force in the state of Georgia that is being underutilized because of regulation and overburdensome taxes. We need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to allow businesses to grow in the state of Georgia. We need real corporate tax reform. There are two places in the Southeast that companies look to relocate: Charlotte and Atlanta. North Carolina last year had an expansive tax reform bill that passed in their state. Instantly, they became more competitive against Georgia. Tennessee has no state income tax and has very low corporate rates. They just attracted Beretta as their main manufacturer of guns in the state. We've got Baxter, and that's great. It's going to do wonderful things for both Morgan and Newton County, but we can't let the ball sit still. We've got to keep it moving forward.
Well, thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Brian, for the question. I have three priorities. I do agree with Aaron that we need tax reform, and I am all for that. But my three priorities as a state legislator, that's what we're talking about here, a state legislator in District 112 from Newton and Morgan County, is one, jobs for our children. I want our children to have the quality jobs to raise their children back here, back home. And the only way they're going to do that is with quality technical education that makes them uniquely qualified for the Baxter jobs that are coming. What y'all are doing in that Newton County Career Academy School is wonderful. We are doing the same thing, and we're starting to ramp up the same thing with Morgan. This has become a biomed corridor. We need to take advantage of that. The second thing, economic growth is quality growth. We have to preserve the charm of our community. We do not want what Conyers became to happen to Newton. We don't want that here. So we want to grow high-tech, good jobs. We want quality jobs. I'll show you something we're doing over in Morgan County now. We're doing a Georgia Zoo, believe it or not. We're doing a Georgia Zoo in Morgan County. I'm one of the leaders of this proposal. We're going to put a Georgia Zoo on Highway 83 and I-20. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I'm leading us charge. I'm making that happen. I'm not the only guy that's making it happen, but I'm part of the leadership team that is making it happen. And the third thing, we need to protect our farmers. So, yeah, you can talk about... So that's what my three priorities right now. Jobs for our children, economic growth is quality growth, and protect our farmers.
I agree with Dave on protecting our farmers. Agriculture is our number one industry. If we can get lower corporate taxes, we instantly become more competitive across state lines. If we can get rid of income taxes in the state of Georgia, we become more competitive selling our agriculture across state lines. This is simple economic stuff here. The corporate tax rate, if it's lowered, will attract business. The businesses that are here will profit more and be able to hire more individuals. We will see our unemployment rate drop. We still have the highest unemployment rate in the Southeast, and that's something that must be addressed under the Gold Dome. We can't keep going along to get along. We have to have real change.
Well, thank you. I agree with that. I wanted to tell you a story. My last trip with my airline that I fly with was to Hong Kong. Hong Kong has no sales tax. They have no capital gains tax. They have no VAT tax. Their income tax starts at 2% for people making less than $35,000, and it doesn't go higher than 14%. And guess what? They're the wealthiest people on the planet. Hong Kong is the wealthiest city on the planet, and they have the most vertical city on the planet. So yes, cutting taxes, of course, corporate taxes going down. And you're right, we do need champions to get in there and lower the taxes as much as we possibly can. I want to say this, though. I have a record of lowering taxes. A lot of people say they want to lower taxes, but I have a record of, I shouldn't say lower taxes, I have a record of never voting for a tax increase. I actually cut the budget 4 of the last 5 years. Our budget went down from $29.4 million to $26.6 million. So a lot of people say they want to cut taxes and cut budgets. I actually have done that. Our cost per child has gone down 13%, from $9,000 a child to $8,000 a child. We're lower right now per child than a lot of private schools are. So again, I totally agree with Aaron that we need to cut taxes, especially corporate taxes. And I think we should restructure the taxes. The way we got it now is not very good. But I'll say that I actually have a record of actually doing that.
All right, well, we're gonna stop it with one answer rebuttal from each, and we're gonna move on to our next question, this time from our readers, and we're gonna combine two other questions into one since they both focus on specific legislation. The first part of that question is, would you be in favor of changing Georgia law to allow cities to give people who own property but are not residents the right to vote in city elections? The question asker said they saw this in other states and had some...
Okay, so please repeat the question.
That's fine. Would you be in favor of changing Georgia law to allow cities to give people who own property but are not residents the right to vote in city elections? The second part of the question is, would you vote to refund the homeowner tax relief grant, which provides county, school, and state property tax relief to Georgia homeowners? Dave, if you want to...
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? I just did that.
Sure. The first part, again, was, would you be in favor of changing Georgia law to allow cities to give people who own property but are not residents the right to vote in city elections? The second part of the question is, would you vote to refund the homeowner tax relief grant, which provides county, school, and state property tax relief to Georgia homeowners? The program began in 1999 but was defunded in 2009.
I do not know a lot about city. I would say that if you don't reside in the city, I don't see why you would be voting in the city. I don't know a lot about that. I didn't study that issue, but in general, I would think that if you do not live in the city, you should not be voting in it. The other one about the taxes, I would be in support of trying to bring that back. In general, like I said, I am for lower taxes, and I have a record of doing that as a school board member for 8 years.
All right, and Aaron, we're just going to do answers from each, so no rebuttals this time. So just...
Okay. As far as voting, if you own property in cities, I believe that people have a vested interest in the communities where they own property. This wouldn't expand their voting rights, but it would give them a voice in where their communities move. More than likely, I would say, depending on how the bill was written, I would be in favor of this. There's a lot of property owners that own multiple properties, and the bill, I can't remember the number read up on it, and it's something that's it's seen across the country. As far as voting to return the homeowners tax relief that expired in 2009, absolutely, yes, yes, yes. That put an undue burden on property owners in the entire state of Georgia. It was not a good move. It made it harder for people to pay their bills. And this was during one of the worst economic times that we were facing. This was at the height of the recession in 2009. I understand why the legislature did it, because they were cutting things to the bone while they were there. However, we just increased our budget spending by $300 million. They had $300 million excess and passed a supplemental budget this session that could have been returned to the taxpayers instead of expanding government.
Okay, thank you both for answering those questions, and we're going to get back to the debate part of it now. One of the most popular topics was the issues of taxes and the budget. What are your thoughts on the current state taxation in Georgia, ideas for tax reform, and the overall state of the budget? We left the question general. We'll give both of you guys plenty of time to give talking points. We'll go back and forth again with your rebuttal. We'll start here. Start with you.
Our current tax system is absolutely hurting us. It's hurting us whenever we're attracting business here. It's hurting us in our families. That's why I believe that a consumption tax or a fair tax is the one thing that's absolutely needed in Georgia. A little known fact is between 2001 and 2011, the 9 states that do not have an income tax saw a 75% increase in revenue. 75%. So while we're cutting teachers from our public education system, while people are losing their homes, the states without an income tax were expanding services and making their governments work better for the people. As far as the state budget goes, one of the things that I would like to implement if I'm elected is I would like to go to zero-based budgeting in every department every 4 years. This would reflect a tax savings for the taxpayers in Georgia almost immediately. Zero-based budgeting has been shown time and time again to make sure that there's responsible spending in government, which is what we need. I don't believe that the state wastes a whole lot of money, but there is government waste. We cannot deny it. Zero-based budgeting makes sure that we get that waste out in a very fast fashion. So, and what was the third part? I'm sorry.
No, I think you answered the
Okay.
question on the budget.
All right, thank you.
Well, I do agree that we should have no income tax. I've lived in Texas, I've lived in Florida, we have Tennessee to the north of us, Alaska, there's a bunch of states out there without no income tax, and things are very good there. So I do agree that we should have no income tax. That's a very tough thing to do, but I think we should have leaders that will want to go in there and battle that battle and have ourselves more prosperous without an income tax. I also do agree that we should do zero-based budgeting. I think we have cut the budget a lot in Georgia. I know we've cut a lot on the education side, so I do agree with zero-based budgeting. And I think that this smaller government that we've had here in Georgia has been bad for a lot of reasons, but it's been good in the sense that we have done a lot of cutting of waste in government. And you're right. Whenever, I think it was Tocqueville said that, the best governments, I think it was Thomas Paine actually said that the best governments always are bad, and the worst governments are worse. So you're right. The smaller the government, I'm a Ronald Reagan conservative. The smaller government, local control. That's what I'm all about. And again, I do have a record of actually not raising taxes. So I just want to remind you all that. Thank you.
The American Tax Foundation just released their business tax climate rankings. Folks, we came in 34th out of 50 states. If that's not a signal that we need to change the way that we do taxes in Georgia, I don't know what is. We've got plenty of resources to attract business to Georgia. We've got an overabundance of resources to attract business to Georgia. If we can finally get the last cog in place of real tax reform in this state, there is no telling how much we can grow in the future.
Well, again, I do agree we need to control government. I would say this, though. I am optimistic about Georgia. Georgia is doing some really good things. There are always, you got all these different magazines. Some say we're great, some say people were bad. Another site selection magazine said that Georgia is now the #1 business climate in the nation. We were 4th last year, and we're top 10 in the last 5 years. They said we had many logistical advantages, cutting-edge workforce training programs, particularly Quick Start that had proactive economic developers on the state and local levels who understand business. Another magazine said we were 2nd in business climates. Another one said we're 8th. Kiplinger said we were the 10 best places to retire. So although there is a lot of gloom and doom about taxes, I want to say that I am optimistic about Georgia. I'm big on Georgia. We're doing some good things, and I want to talk about the good things that are happening, not only in Georgia business, but also especially in Georgia schools.
I agree, our future is bright in Georgia. If we go forward responsibly and smartly. Let's look at what we do to attract business currently in Georgia. We offer huge tax credits just to get businesses to come here. That's a signal that we need to change our tax code. We should not have to offer up tax credits to businesses to come here. They should want to come here because our taxes are fair and balanced and equal for everyone. The problem with tax credits is it's a tax shift. It's a shift from one place to another. And guess where that other place tends to be? Every one of us sitting in this room. When taxes shift, the taxpayer is the person that pays for that. This is the type of thing that we need reformed under the Gold Dome in order to have a brighter tomorrow.
Well, I do agree with that, Aaron, and I want to say it again, though. In this race, in Morgan County and East County of Newton Park, East Newton, sorry, I have 3 priorities, and they are jobs for our children, economic growth, that's quality growth, and protecting our farmers. And the guy who sits in the Golden Dome for East Newton and Morgan County needs to be primarily worried about making sure the growth that happens here is good growth, making sure our children are adequately, uniquely qualified for those great Baxter jobs that are coming, and making sure we're protecting our farmers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. We're going to return to some questions and close it out with these questions. Dave, we're going to start with you. Each candidate will get one chance to answer. First question, what do you bring to the table as far as your skills, experience, personality traits, and so on, in terms of being able to represent the people of the 112th district?
Well, that's a great question, and I think it really talks about, this job, this race is not about me, it's not about Aaron, it's not about Esther Fleming, it's about you getting the very best leadership you can get from your representative. What I bring to the table is I've done a lot of things. I'm a pilot with a major airline in Atlanta, Georgia. I have been vetted by that company, which is very, very difficult to get a job there. I'll tell you that for a fact. I am a people person. I can communicate with people from all over the world. I've seen things all over the world. The other thing, I have 23 years of military experience. I have the discipline to get things done. And more than anything else, I'd love to tell you a story about Caleb's Law. A couple of years ago, one of our kids unfortunately killed himself texting while driving. And his mama at the funeral came to me and said, Dave, would you please pass a law on behalf of my child who died texting while driving? Said, I'm being a moron. Said, sure, I'll do that. Okay, I had no idea how hard that is to do. I'm a school board member. I'm the very lowest guy on the totem pole. I went to the Golden Dome for 30 days. I lobbied with the senators the year before this thing has failed. If this thing had passed the year before, this young man would have been alive, because this young man was a law-abiding citizen, good kid. After 30 days, I brought the young man's younger sister, named Alex Sorian, and about 12 of her sophomore friends. She's 15 years old. And I had her lobby to each and every single senator, and we got a unanimous vote. And now there's a law called Caleb's Law. And it's the kind of thing that I do. I am a doer. I am a guy who's going to get things done. If you want a placekeeper, you don't want Dave Belton. If you want to get things done, I'm the guy.
What I bring to the table is 20 years of business experience. I also, too, have military experience. The one thing that I learned in the military was how to get things done, how to accomplish a mission. That's why I'm laser focused on changing the tax code in the state of Georgia, expanding school choice, and making sure that we can get businesses here to Georgia that give our people jobs. My grandfather always said, the best charity that I can give somebody else is a job. I'm also a student of economics. I understand how policy affects the long run and the short run. And you have to understand that. We have laws on the books now that don't take into consideration what the immediate reaction is, what type of incentives we give to people. One of the problems we have here in Georgia right now is in welfare. When you go to a gas station and there are people buying junk food with their state-funded paycheck, they're buying junk food. We pay for it on the front end. We pay for it on the back end. We pay for it when they eat it. We pay for it whenever they have high blood pressure. We have an absolute problem here in Georgia with children with high blood pressure because they're malnourished, because they're eating high sodium content foods. These are the kind of things that we need to look at and say, enough is enough already. One of my biggest liabilities seems to be to some folks that I don't have any experience in legislation. I think that it's my biggest asset. I'm not part of the political class. I'm not part of the establishment. In short, I'm not part of the problem. I want to be a part of the solution when I go to the Gold Dome.
All right, thank you. And Aaron, we'll start you off with our last question, as well as your closing comments, to kind of bring things full circle. Why do you deserve to get the vote? And then we'll go on Dave and tell us why you deserve.
Closing comments?
Closing comments.
Okay.
I don't think that I deserve anything. I think that I can earn it. If elected, I'm not going to be a representative that goes to the Gold Dome to represent elected officials or special interests. I want to represent the voters, those who elected me into this position, the workers, the teachers, the business owners. That's why I'm here tonight. That's why I stood on the county courthouse steps and railed against tax increases, because I knew it would hurt our local government. We made our local officials listen. I was proud to have formed the Newton Conservative Liberty Alliance with the help of many loyal friends. We started this taxpayer advocacy group to give a voice to our elected officials about taxes. And we continue to make them listen. Folks, I stand for what I believe in. And if I see a wrong, I want to make it right. As my granddaddy always used to say, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting. I offer a fresh perspective, a new voice, and a new passion. We just had a Democrat that jumped in this race today. We need someone that can stand strong against the liberal agenda. They obviously think that this seat is vulnerable and that they can win it. I appreciate your support. I humbly ask for your vote on May 20th, and I thank you all for being here tonight.
Well, thank you. Again, I want to thank Aaron for participating and being the real hero he's been with Newton Conservative Liberty Alliance. He's done a really good job at that, and I really appreciate the activism he's done. I've also wanted to wrong rights, and I have a strong record of doing that. But I want to say at the very end here, there are two great pains in life: discipline and regret. Leaders have the discipline to close the gap between what sounds good and actually getting things done. It reminds me of my favorite quote by JFK. He said, "We choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard." That's the kind of leadership I'm talking about, doing the hard things, because it's the hard things that need to get done. There's a gulf between what I'm saying and what you're going to hear everyone else, and that gulf is a discipline to get things done. Discipline I learned in 23 years in the military, and I've lived all my life. This race is not about me. It's about you getting the very best leadership that you can get for Newton and Morgan counties to capitalize on the jobs that are coming, because growth is coming. The choices our leaders make today are going to change the fate of this community for 100 years. We're going to elect placekeepers, men and women who go along to get along, or we're going to empower dynamic leaders who will make the hard choices because they're the right choices. I have a vision that your children will have the quality jobs to raise their children back here, back home. I'm asking you to join me. My name is Dave Belton, and I'd be honored to have your vote. Thank you very much.
Well, thank both of you. I want to thank Dave Belton and Aaron Brooks for coming out and voicing their opinions and sharing what they plan to do with everybody here today. I also want to thank the Conservative Liberty Alliance as well as the News for making this forum happen. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and for those who watch on cubnews.com. The candidates will stick around a little bit afterwards if you want to meet them and chat them up. We appreciate it. Thank you all, and have a good night.
That's fine. plays. So it's not big deal.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I just probably do it more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've done it.
It was fun.
Good. Let me.
Yeah.
I'll meet you later.
Yeah, we'll probably got a group of us going, so.
Thank you very much.
2 weeks from now,
Yes, sir.
the NCLA and the Government News is pushing together for U.S. congressional. We got 4 meetings, Mike Collins, Jody Nice, Gary Gerard, and
Stevenson.
It's going to be 2 weeks from tonight here.